looking forward to talking a little bit about key nutrients in a plant-based diet. When we think about plant-based diets, a lot of times there's like, okay, we take out the meat, take out the dairy, and our kidneys will be saved. But a lot of times what people don't understand is when they start taking out the animal foods that they're used to eating, while that can be amazing for what they add in and replace it with, sometimes people don't replace it and you're just left with holes in your diet. So we want to talk today about some key nutrients that if you're going to be following a fully plant-based diet for your kidneys, which can, again, be very helpful, some things that we think would be really helpful for you to think about. Okay, so if we just look at a couple nutrient highlights in plant-based diets versus animal diets. Now, both diets can be very nourishing. There are a lot of nutrients in animal foods, and there are a lot of nutrients in plant foods. A lot of times in our food culture, sometimes either one of them can be really, really dogged on. People can say, oh, don't eat any animals because of XYZ. Oh, too many plants have lectins, have oxalates, have a billion other things. Really, any food can harm you, and anybody can make a case for that. But when we look at it just really rationally from a common sense perspective with some data here, we can see that a plant-based diet is favorably high in a lot of amazing things. B1, 6, C, E, folate, magnesium, fiber, phytochemicals, etc. And it can be favorably low. It doesn't have a ton of sodium. It doesn't have a huge phosphorus load. It doesn't have a huge potassium load. But it's also low in B12 and D and calcium and iodine and iron and zinc, versus an animal-based diet is pretty high in things like niacin and B12 and zinc, opposite of a plant-based diet. So what do, right? You've heard you need to eat a totally plant-based diet for your kidneys. There's a few things you can do to enhance your plant-based diet to make up for some of these things that you may be low in. I love this graphic because it really shows that there's this balance between the two approaches that gives you a whole nutrition picture. Now, one thing I'll say before we move on to the next slide is that there is a place for people to have a very stringent approach to start. Sometimes people go totally plant-based because it gives them the initial structure. And then after you have the core structure of a very plant-based diet, you can build off of that with maybe adding in some animal food. So sometimes it's very helpful for people in a therapeutic phase to be very strict and then expand back out. If you choose to stay very strict, totally vegan or vegetarian for forever, there are some considerations you should take into account. Again, can be very healthy, great ways to eat, but some things. Number one, variety is really important. It doesn't matter if you're eating all plants or plants and animals. Variety is really, really important. It's really important to think about combinations. So in a plant-based diet, iron is low. So when you have high iron food, for example, like lentils, you want to be able to combo it with something that is acidic or high in vitamin C. So we like to do snacks like pumpkin seeds and dried apricots. We like to use lentil, like a legume and an acid, like a tomato with it, or maybe we have some pineapple at a meal or some strawberries. Those are some great things you can do. People that are eating grains, if they have a cereal with a lot of iron in it, we'll put some vitamin C with it also. Another thing that you can do is you can enhance your absorption of fats, soluble vitamins, when you're taken with some sort of fat, right? So if you're going to cook like carrots, for example, you can use some olive oil. I'm going to give you a few more specifics in a second. But this diversity of diet, a lot of times has some extra benefits we don't even think about beyond just, more vitamins and minerals. If you're struggling with oxalates, maybe you have a history of kidney stones, you can inhibit that absorption by combining the oxalates with a calcium source like black tea and milk. Now, a few other things that you want to think about here is, of course, timing, right? If you're having iron and calcium together, perhaps you're doing like a supplement, that can be a problem as well. Now, a couple of functional foods. Now, B12 is really, really important. You're not going to get a lot in a plant-based diet. If you're totally vegan, we recommend you get a B12 shot or take a B12 supplement. But things like some sources of B12, nutritional yeast is a big favorite of ours. Using a whole grain fortified cereal can work. Some people will get B12 from like soy milk or an oat milk, or So Delicious. These ones are fortified, which is why they have B12 in it. If you're looking at omega-3s, right, if you're totally plant-based, you don't need fish, you're going to need to either have a omega-3 supplement, or you would do something like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, hemp seeds can work really good too. A couple other things. So zinc, this is probably one of the most common deficiencies we see. It's not on people's radar really when they're eating a plant-based diet, and it can get low pretty quick for a lot of people. And we notice people get kind of tired. So you'd want to think about pumpkin seeds, cashews, quinoa, lentils, fortified cereal. Those can all be really amazing foods that you can add in as well. Then we have beans, dried fruit, lentils, fortified cereals, tofu, or tempeh. These can also be really amazing sources of iron. These minerals both get low in a plant-based diet, or taking an iron supplement. Now, anything with a little star on it is higher in potassium. So if your potassium is a little bit high, you're going to need to watch your portion size and keep it probably to just a 1 portion serving per day. Magnesium, people that are getting cramps in their legs, have taken their eye, difficulty sleeping after they've started doing a vegan diet can be low in magnesium. So again, these nuts and seeds are so important. Cooked spinach, if you're not watching oxalates, black beans or tempeh. And again, the fortified cereals sometimes are an easy way to get nutrients in, and that can definitely be used. Calcium, so using a fortified plant milk can be good. Tofu, a plant milk yogurt that is fortified. Again, they have to be fortified to have a little bit extra calcium. And then a fortified cereal also can be good. A lot of my patients to get their calcium up also do things like bok choy, collard greens, or I'll have them add in just a little bit of cheese, or if they want to do a little bit of fish, we'll do some sardines or a salmon with bones in it, because that has calcium and it has iron and zinc, other minerals as well. Selenium, we love selenium for its antioxidant properties. So Brazil nuts and farro oats, brown rice, these whole grains can be really rich in some minerals to combo with your lentils and your nuts. Mushrooms, whole wheat pasta, sunflower seeds are really good. So when it comes to functional foods, some of the common questions people ask is, can I get enough nutrients if I'm only eating a plant-based diet? The answer is yes, you can, but you need to be aware of what you're eating. This is where we would use a tool like Cronometer, where we are tracking your food. We will share a little bit more about Cronometer in a different module. But overall, if you're following a plant-based diet and after you've started it, if you've noticed fatigue or hair loss or your skin's changing, most likely you have a deficiency. It'd be great to work with a dietitian to be able to understand what you might need to up level. You can do testing to understand that as well. But these are like some really basic, fundamental things that we see missing in people that are eating fully plant-based diets that they've kind of done on their own. All right. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.